you got off of a very long nonfiction train, even though you had an incredible nonfiction audience, a very successful advance, and a pretty well-received book. I mean, Crypto Confidential is a really good book, and I think you got a lot of good feedback on it. And you kind of like put all of that down and turned around and like jumped out the window and started doing fiction.
Yeah. Well, a couple things came in here. I mean, one, going back to the always jumping between different interests and being, curious about a lot of different things. My blog has succeeded despite not having a focus really for the last 10 years. And there aren't many of us, it's like, and I don't have a huge blog. I mean, it's bigger than the vast majority. It's like 50,000 subscribers, just short of that. But in most cases, you succeed by having a topic that you write about and you keep writing about that topic and you own that topic. And then your nonfiction books, if you're doing like pop business, blogger to book nonfiction, you're not like history books or politics books or whatever, you kind of like have some of those topics that you keep coming back to and you keep writing about those areas. What my agent told me was helpful is he was kind of like, you're not really going to be able to do, it's going to be very hard for you to do the kind of like nonfiction book deal career that you might want to do, because if you want to sell a book on a different topic, you're going to need to build an audience or some proof of interest around that topic first. And part of me still wants to do this. I kind of wanted to do a book on like learning new things, like not in a 80-20 hacky way, but a like, actual somewhat accelerated mastery, diving into these new areas, figuring them out, sifting through the noise. Like it's something that I'm good at, but I don't really have an audience around that. And so we talked about doing a book on that topic for a bit, and it was just hard to get it to a point where I could sell it unless I went out and built an audience around it for a year or two first. And it became kind of obvious that if I wanted to go the trad nonfiction route, I kind of needed to pick a narrower topic area and focus on it and keep selling books within that topic area. And a lot of the money would probably not come from the book writing. The book writing would support other things like speaking and courses and consulting. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's a great career, and there are exceptions to that, right? Like, I mean, James Clear makes money from a lot of things, but like his book probably makes enough money for him to not do the other things, like Mark Manson, some of these blog successes. But but the vast majority of nonfiction authors, it's like supporting something else. For me, I just love the writing. I just wanted to be able to like keep working on the next book and keep writing books and have that be the thing. And it's pretty hard to do that in a trad nonfiction world, again, unless you're like a Robert Caro or something where it's like you're doing these, there might not even be much of a space in the market for somebody like that anymore. Anyway, I was just like, okay, well, one, if I want to just focus on writing books, fiction actually gives me more freedom to do that than nonfiction. So that was kind of an interesting consideration. The second interesting part of it was like, I just had so much more fun with the storytelling part of Crypto Confidential than I expected. I thought that the hard thing was going to be explaining the crypto concepts. But in reality, the hard thing was like telling an exciting story that like pulled people through the book and building a cohesive narrative. And that was what I spent most of that year and change learning how to do. And once I learned how to do that, I kind of didn't want to keep writing the type of nonfiction stuff that I had been writing before. I like wanted to keep going hard on the storytelling side. And so for long form storytelling, again, unless you're doing like history books or whatnot, it's just like fiction would let me do that. And then third, for some of these topics where I'm not an expert by any means. I'm sort of like an armchair philosopher, health guy, whatever. You can get away with that in fiction. There's no way that I could go sell a book about philosophy of mind and get like a good book deal, or really get like hardly any readers outside of a pretty, I think, narrow bunch of nerds. But if I wrap some of those philosophy of mind concepts in a sci-fi thriller, suddenly it's got a bigger market, right? Because it doesn't, if you're not interested in the philosophy of mind stuff, like that's fine. But if you like sci-fi with that hint to it, then like, here it is. That was really exciting to me as well. And so in the middle of one of the Crypto Confidential drafts, I just said like, well, let's just start trying to write a novel and see how it goes. I got like 30,000 words into it and it wasn't good. And it was like completely lost and rambling and not going anywhere, but I was having a lot of fun. And I was like, there might actually be something here that I can actually try to do. And so I threw that draft in the trash. And then when I finished Crypto Confidential, I started writing a more well planned out draft of a sci-fi novel and ended up finishing it and was like, that was really fun. And I think there might actually be something here. And I actually want to go after this. And then kind of the train had left the station.